Welcome to the Trip Tales podcast with me, Kelsey Graves. Let's jump into a new episode exploring a vacation destination that you'll want all the details about. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 20 of the Trip Tales podcast. This is a very exciting episode for me because when I originally decided that I was going to try doing a podcast, I made a commitment to myself that I would try to reach 20 episodes and see how it was going at that point. So I have finally reached 20. And I'm excited to say that the podcast is going great. There are thousands of downloads and people listening, and we have so many exciting episodes coming up. Lots of awesome couples, trips, and family destinations. So definitely make sure you subscribe or follow the show in your podcast app so that you get notified when the new episodes come. I created this podcast after I found myself trying to plan a Disney trip, and I was so overwhelmed that I just started searching Disney resort hotel names and the parks and certain restaurants in the podcast app. And I would find these great, thorough podcast episodes that were answering all of my questions. And I absorb information through podcasts well because I'm typically on the run, driving. I've got 3 little kids. So I'm typically driving, doing laundry, cooking. I'm kind of always on the go. So to be able to absorb information through my earbuds is a really great way for me to wrap my head around something. So after planning our Disney trip, I was like, you know what? I would love a travel podcast that just shares great trips, family trips, couples trips from someone's perspective. And I decided I wanted to interview people and hear about their trips. I'm very curious about travel. So it's natural for me to ask a million questions to somebody about their trip, where they stayed, where they dined, what they liked, what they didn't like. And so far, we've had 20 awesome episodes of people sharing about their trips and you guys being able to listen in and plan your own trips. The Trip Tales podcast has really become a place where real people can talk about their real trips. I love that the conversations provide destination inspiration for people and also concrete tips on everything you need to know, from accommodations to dining to activities and more. If you've listened to even a few episodes, you know people aren't afraid to share what they loved about a trip or a hotel and also what they didn't love to help all of us make the most of our time on our trips and not make the same mistakes. I'm absolutely loving all the conversations I'm having on this podcast and some of the fun feedback I'm hearing. For example, I have a couple listeners who swore they would never do a Disney cruise. That is just something they would absolutely never do. And after listening to the 2 Disney cruise episodes that are on the Trip Tales podcast, they messaged me and let me know that they are actually booking one and asked a few more questions. And I was like, if this is not a testimonial to this podcast, not that everybody needs to do a Disney cruise, but I feel like the more you know and the more you hear about other people's experiences of all different places, from national parks to cruises to resorts, you're able to wrap your brain around it a little bit more and it doesn't become such an unknown. As you know, I prefer to have guests on and interview guests, and we have a ton of great episodes coming up, especially once kiddos are back in school. It is hard to get people on the phone and on Zooms over the summer. It's even hard for me to try to record these episodes over the summer. I have 3 kids, 2 of them are at home right now. I have a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old running around the house. So come school time, we will be releasing episodes every Monday. And some of the great interview episodes you can look forward to are a couple's trip to Switzerland booked on points, visiting Universal with kids, also completely paid for on points, a couple's trip to Excellence Playa Mujeres. This is an all-inclusive that's been on my radar forever, and a summer family trip to Nantucket and Boston, just to name a few. If you took an amazing trip recently that you'd like to share about on the Trip Tales podcast, simply email me at triptalespodcast@gmail.com and I'll add you to the schedule. That email address is also in the show notes. Okay, let's talk about my husband's and my long weekend in Asheville, North Carolina at the Omni Grove Park Inn. So we chose this trip to celebrate my husband's 40th birthday. We wanted something easy to get to that wasn't going to take up a ton of time. And since we live in Nashville, Tennessee, Asheville, North Carolina is just a 5-hour drive from us, which is super awesome. He also didn't just want to sit by a pool at an all-inclusive and drink and eat all day. I mean, that's my idea of fun, but he wanted to be active and hike and see a place that he hadn't been before. So Asheville felt like the perfect fit. We had also been eyeing the famous and historic Omni Grove Park Inn for a while, and we knew they had an amazing spa. So that felt very celebratory for his 40th birthday. We decided to go for 3 nights. We were going to spend one night in downtown Asheville and then 2 nights at the famous Omni Grove Park Inn. If you haven't seen this hotel, just Google a picture of it. It is so incredible, and it was even more stunning in person. Now, the exciting thing about this trip is that we booked the 2 nights at the Omni Grove Park Inn, which was the most expensive part of the trip, on points. So currently, we use the Chase Sapphire Preferred credit card as our travel and points credit card. We are still dipping our toe in the points and miles world, and we're learning more and more every day. So I'm just going to relay some of the basics we're learning on this podcast. But basically, when you sign up for a Chase Sapphire Preferred credit card, if you spend $4,000 in the first 3 months, you get an automatic 60,000 bonus points added to your account. And for us, that was pretty easy to do when we put all of our expenses onto this one credit card just to hit that maximum. So with our Chase Sapphire Preferred credit card points, we were able to use the Chase Travel Portal, which you get access to once you open one of these credit cards, to book the Omni Grove Park Inn mostly on points. So we were staying at the Omni Grove Park Inn Friday, July 12th through Sunday, July 14th. So Friday night and Saturday night. 2 guests, 2 nights. The value of the hotel during the summer for those nights was $1,400. So approximately $700 a night, which is, I know, astronomical, but this hotel is super cool. And this was a 40th birthday. So we wanted it to be a very special place. Now, I had 91,000 points in my Chase Portal points. We had gotten the 60,000 bonus points from the introductory offer. And then we used the card for tons of our spending. And so we had accumulated 91,000 points. So when I went to go book the room, we almost had enough points to cover off on our stay. So you know how sometimes when you book on a travel portal or on like an airline portal, it'll say you just need to pay a little bit more and you're going to reach, you kind of like buy points. You just need to add a little bit more and then you're there. So when I went to book it, they used my 91,419 points plus $293 to book my 2 night stay at the Omni Grove Park Inn. So my credit card was charged $293 for our 2 night stay. And I'll also say we didn't book the cheapest room. There are some cheaper rooms that aren't necessarily renovated and don't have a mountain view, but we decided we're going to Asheville for the mountains. So we booked a more premium room. It was called a premium room, 1 king bed mountain view. So it was a standard kind of like studio room with a king bed in a mountain view, and it was guaranteed to be in one of the better, more updated wings of the Omni Grove Park Inn, which those are called the Vanderbilt and the Sammons, Sammons wings. So we ended up in the Vanderbilt wing. Again, my credit card was charged $293 for this hotel that was really worth $1,400. So that felt like a huge win, and we were so pumped about this trip. I will say the rooms at this hotel are a little dated. Now, we were in more of the updated ones. I thought they were completely fine, but I did have some people message me on Instagram while we were staying there. I'm just my name, Kelsey_Graves on Instagram, if you want to follow along. And they had said, we love that hotel, but we just don't think it's worth the cost for the rooms. And yes, the rooms are not the most luxurious updated, but they are nice. You're in a historic old hotel. So for me, they were spacious, they were clean, they were comfortable. It was completely fine for me to be able to stay at this historic hotel in one of these rooms. But don't go thinking that the rooms are like state of the art, completely updated. So just wanted to share that so that I'm transparent about that. If you're interested in dipping your toe into the points and miles world, most Points and miles experts agree that the Chase Sapphire Preferred Credit Card is the best introductory credit card to kind of get started in this world. And in the show notes, I do have a link to an introductory offer that will get you those 60,000 bonus points if you spend the $4,000 within 3 months. So you can click on it and read the offer and see what it's all about if you think that it's something that would work for you. But let's get into our Asheville stay. So we drove over from Nashville on a Thursday. We spent most of the day driving. It is a 5-hour drive, and there's a time change going from Central Time to Eastern Time. So we stopped at Buc-ee's on our way, which is always fun. We are starting to love Buc-ee's because we like the warm, protein-filled food on our road trip instead of the typical drive-through spots. My husband got I think it was a cheesesteak burrito, and I got the chicken fajita taco. It's just like simple chicken with sauteed veggies in a tortilla. So delicious. We also got some trail mixes. So love a stop at Buc-ee's. And then remember, we were going first to downtown Asheville. So we pulled up to our hotel in downtown Asheville, which was the Kimpton Hotel Arras. That's spelled Arras. We absolutely loved this hotel. I booked this hotel on Expedia. Hey guys, I wanted to quickly share about a cool way you can support the show. Travel content creating and podcasting is so fun. But as you travel lovers know, traveling can get expensive. While I may receive trades from time to time, the flights, the behind the scenes hours filming, editing, recording, and sharing are often unseen and unpaid. There is this super cool website called buymeacoffee.com that was created specifically as a way to support creators like me. Buying Me a Coffee is a quick and simple way to show your support for the Trip Tales podcast. And Lord knows this busy Mama 3 could use a coffee to keep me recording and sharing, and maybe help with the grocery bill as well. I'll also give a special shout out by name to anyone who buys me a coffee in the following week's episode. So if you love Trip Tales, I'll put the link in the show notes, or you can get there by visiting buymeacoffee.com/Kelsey Graves. Thank you for considering supporting the show. And it was $228 a night. So not too bad. This hotel is brand new, gorgeous. The rooms are phenomenal. We pulled up at 5 p.m. and they had just rolled out their happy hour. I think most Kimptons do a happy hour between 5 and 6 p.m. every night. They had little chef bites to eat, and they had a full bar cart with wine, beer, and a specialty cocktail. They had some sort of a margarita with tequila. So I got a white wine. My husband got the tequila drink, and we were like, we have arrived on vacation. Thank you, Kimpton. It just feels like such an awesome hotel chain. It's also dog friendly. So there's all these couples with their cute dogs checking into the hotel. I've talked about it on this podcast before, but I never accept your room is ready mobile check-in on your phone where you go straight to your room, because I always want to go to the desk, be super nice, kind of be inquisitive about their life. And a lot of times you can get an upgrade just by being super nice and telling them what you're celebrating. We talked about this on the Miami episode of this podcast with my guest, Cam. She used to work in hospitality and hotels, and she is like, that person behind the keyboard has more power than you think. So go to them, be kind. It's not always going to work out, but I'm telling you, it works out a lot for us. So we start chatting with him. We tell him, we go up to the front desk. We start chatting with him. We tell him we just drove over from Nashville. We're so excited to be spending the weekend in Asheville to celebrate my husband's 40th birthday. And he's like, oh, a 40th birthday. I didn't have that in my notes. And I was like, whoops, I probably should have put that in my notes, but I booked through Expedia, which, it's like a third party. So I wasn't sure if I could even like send over those notes to them. But so he's just kind of like tapping away. And, he's like, what are you guys going to do while you're in town? And my husband was like, well, we're going to relax. We're taking a break from our 3 kiddos. And you can just tell he's listening. And we're like, where are you from? And so we just kind of make some small talk. And he's like, All right, y'all. I got you guys upgraded a bit. I got you guys on the better side, the mountain view. We were on more of a city view. I got you on the mountain view side, which also keeps you far away from the road and a higher floor. So he got us higher up, mountain view, maybe a slightly bigger king room. And I was like, my work here is done. So we were super thankful about that. Thank you to Jamie at the Kimpton, who we checked in with. So if you go to the Kimpton in Asheville and you see Jamie, say, I heard about you on this Trip Tales podcast. Um, we went up to check out our room. It is fabulous. It is industrial, chic, modern. The bed was so comfortable. I was like missing that bed the entire trip because it was just perfection. I highly recommend staying at this hotel, even for an entire weekend in Asheville, because you could easily, Uber or drive up to the Omni Grove Park Inn to check it out, have dinner, or go to the spa without having to stay there. This hotel was a 10 out of 10 for me. They had a happening lobby bar and restaurant. Lots going on. There were two bikes in the lobby it had little signs on them that said free to use. You could take them around town if you wanted to. You could walk anywhere you needed to in downtown Asheville from this Kimpton. Highly recommend the Kimpton in downtown Asheville. So we changed it out of our road trip clothes and into some cuter clothes, and we just started exploring downtown Asheville. It is so artsy and funky and cool. There are so many cute restaurants, tasting rooms from the breweries that are around town, boutiques. We had the best time just popping in and out of all these different spots. We had on our list that we wanted to visit the Dissolver Brewery, which I highly recommend. I'll put it in the show notes. It's like all capital letters, like DISSLVR. There's some vowels missing in there, but that's one of the more popular spots in Asheville. And this one was really great for us because it was huge. One side was a brewery with some outdoor seating, and the other side was a cocktail bar, and they had some wine there as well. So I'm not that big of a beer fan. So it was kind of nice for my husband to be able to try some of the beers at Dissolver, and then I could walk over to the cocktail bar, and I got a delicious espresso martini. So then we moved to the outdoor area that had a lot of greenery and plants, and we just sat and kicked off our vacation at the Dissolver Brewery. It's like very funky and cool with like pinks and greens and like a massive skeleton, like those huge ones at Halloween where you're like, they're as tall as the houses and you're not sure where they store them. Those are in there. It's just a cool, funky place. My husband loved the beers. I loved the espresso martini, and I appreciated that they had another option. So I didn't like have to drink a beer. From there, we walked to another popular brewery in downtown Asheville called Wicked Weed. This is another very large footprint. They have a huge restaurant in there, so we wanted to get a bite to eat after having that first round of drinks. So we made our way to Wicked Weed along the way, again, stopping in shops and that sort of thing. We sat at the bar in Wicked Weed, and one fun thing about there is that they have a whole wine list where their grapes are grown as the same place as their hops. So again, it's kind of, I feel like sometimes at breweries when they only have beer, and I'm like, do you have wine? And they're like, no, shut up. And I'm like, sorry. You just feel kind of lame when you go to a brewery and you don't love beer. So I appreciated that Dissolver and Wicked Weed both had options for non-beer drinkers. And it felt kind of cool and non-lame that their grapes, their wine grapes were grown on the same property as their hops. I felt like I was like in the brewery experience. So I tried one of their white wines. It was delicious. We ordered an appetizer. It was some kettle chips with some beer cheese and bacon and scallions. So that was a hearty appetizer for us. And then we made our way to our dinner spot. We decided to try chai pani. So this is an Indian restaurant, and it is spelled CHAI space PANI. I will put that in the show notes, chai pani. It was so delicious and so cool. I mean, the second you walk in, it is like you are in India. There is just like bright yellows and hot pinks and Bollywood music playing, and it is just a sight to be seen. So I don't think they take reservations. So we went in and just put our name on the list. We had like a 30-minute wait. So we just, again, walked around Asheville a little bit more. Once we got seated, my husband got these Indian street food sliders that he was like, these are the best sliders I've ever had in my life. There were two or three on these little buns, and it was some sort of a ground meat with all these Indian spices, and the buns were like toasted and buttered. And I took a bite. It was insane. It was like the best sliders, like he said, ever. And I got a plate of their Indian butter chicken, which came with white rice and a couple other sides and like little accoutrements that you could kind of like mix and match with. And it was also delicious. So highly recommend. Highly recommend Chai Pani. I had found it when I was looking up like the Eater top 25 places to eat in Nashville. And there are, when I say it, I feel like I'm like sounding like I'm saying Nashville, but in Asheville, there are a million delicious restaurants, so you really can't go wrong. But I just wanted to highlight this Indian place because we absolutely loved it. I'll link it in the show notes. And then we went to bed in that super comfortable bed, which I highly recommend staying at the Kimpton Hotel Arras. So we woke up and we packed up and we were headed early to the Omni Grove Park Inn because we decided we wanted to try their spa. Their spa is famous. It's known for their indoor, outdoor, relaxing areas with kind of like all these rock looking caves and pools. My husband, he like likes a spa. I wouldn't say he like loves a spa. I love a spa day, but he did want to like celebrate and relax. So we were looking at all the treatment options. They are very expensive. But a day pass to the Omni Grove Park Inn spa, I want to say it was 225 or something, maybe 250. And the facials were that price, if not just a little bit more. So I was like, there's no reason to not get a treatment if the day pass is almost just as expensive. And he wasn't feeling a massage this time. I'm not a huge massage person. I am a facial person through and through. I love a facial because you get a massage too. You always get a hand and arm and neck massage with a facial, which is like the best part. But then your face is glowing when you leave. And this one, we booked 80-minute facials and you also got a foot massage, which I'll get to. But so I booked the brightening facial, which I loved. Highly recommend the brightening facial. They did a couple like peels and stuff where you can like feel your face tingling and you're like, yes, we are doing something that's working. We're doing something medical grade. We love that. And then my husband booked the gentleman's facial. We were separate. We weren't like in a couple's room or anything, but we wanted to take advantage of the Omni Grove Park Inn the entire day, even though check-in would probably be at like 4 p.m. So we booked our treatments at 10:45 a.m. We went over early so that we could get like a tour of the spa and sit in the relaxing rooms and whatnot. So we got there around 9:45, 10 a.m., valeted our car, checked our luggage with the valet, and then just went to the spa. The relaxing rooms are such a dream here. Even though it was summer and it's warm outside, the spa is nice and cool with the relaxing music going. There were old school crackling fireplaces everywhere and this huge leather furniture. This hotel, let me just back up actually before we get to the spa. Pulling around the corner to this hotel, which I'm going to post some reels and some videos on my Instagram about this, was like breathtaking. I want to say it looks like a Hobbit house, but it's so huge it can't be a Hobbit house, but it feels like something from a J.R.R. Tolkien novel. It is just built out of a million rocks and boulders that are like mismatched, and it looks like they're just kind of like piled on top of each other with this red droopy roof, almost like a gnome house, but it's massive and just kind of, you almost just try to take it in and you're like, what is this amazing, huge, beautiful historic hotel? It's like nothing I've ever seen before. I've been to a handful of the famous historic hotels in America. This one's just different. Some of the other ones are big and long and white. This is so funky and cool. So pulling up to the hotel was amazing. I took all these videos. Then you walk into the lobby and it is massive, huge ceilings, the most beautiful fireplace you've ever seen with the biggest boulders. It's the biggest fireplace I've ever seen in my entire life with tons of Adirondack rocking chairs surrounding the fireplace. It's going year round because it just gives you that like lodgy, comfortable vibe. The hotel pulling up to it and the lobby are phenomenal, like everything I imagined and more. So, like I said, we checked our luggage and then we headed to the spa. And then the spa has similar vibes. It's very nice, very quiet, filled out our paperwork, went to our separate relaxing rooms, the men's and the women's, big leather furniture, fireplaces with fires crackling, little canisters, little containers of mixed nuts, teas, waters. In the women's side, there's an indoor and an outdoor relaxing area. So there was this outdoor patio that overlooked the Blue Ridge Mountains with a little water feature going. I was like, I could sit here all day and be perfectly happy if nobody ever came to get me. I went outside. I had a coconut water. I sat in a chair with the sun on my face, listening to the trickling water and the spa music overlooking the Blue Ridge Mountains. It was a dream. But of course, then my esthetician found me. I went and got my 80-minute brightening facial. It was perfection. They started with paraffin wax on my hands and feet in the little baggies where it's like so hot for a second. You're like, whoa. And then it cools off quite quickly and kind of forms to your hands. And then an amazing brightening facial. As she took off my paraffin wax on my hands, that's when she did my hand and arm massages. Then she took the paraffin wax off my feet and did a foot and calf massage. Then she did more facial stuff and did the neck massage. She even did a scalp massage. The one thing I liked about the brightening facials is that one does not come with extractions. I don't always love extractions. I'm in my 40s now. I'm 41. I don't get as many breakouts as I probably did in my 20s and 30s. So sometimes the extractions feel a little forced, and I'm like, I don't really need you digging into my face. So the brightening facial was nice for that because they do not do extractions with that one. So 10 out of 10 on the facial, absolutely loved it. Then I had worn a swimsuit to the hotel. My husband and I both wore swimsuits and cover-ups to the hotel, checked our luggage, went to the spa with like backpacks with books and that sort of thing. Note, there is no electronics allowed in the spa. It's kind of a little extreme. I get the no phone because you could like take a picture of someone or your phone could ring and that's very distracting. A lot of spas are like that. But this one is like no AirPods, no e-readers, like no Kindles. So my husband's like reading a book on his Kindle or his iPad right now, and that's what he like wanted to do to relax. And I had a physical book. But so they're like very strict about literally no electronics. So just know that going in, like bring a physical book if you want to relax with something in their relaxing areas afterwards. But so we headed to the relaxing areas. We had our swimsuits on, our spa robes, and the indoor area has several, like maybe 5 or 6 pools. There are little hot tubs with waterfalls going into them. There are cooler pools that you can float around in, mineral pools, tons of different areas and lots of seating. And again, little fireplaces and stuff to go sit by. And it is very like sweet and romantic. Like at first I didn't even want to like touch my book because I was just trying to like hang out with my husband and chat. And it's very conducive to like chit chat and sitting in the corners. There were also a lot of girls trips, a lot of mother daughters I saw there. I even saw a couple people just alone, which is like amazing place to spend an afternoon. So we hung out in the hot tub for a little bit, then in the cold pool inside. And then we headed outside. We loved outside because it overlooked the Blue Ridge Mountains again, a very pretty area with a little pool in the middle. But the little pool in the middle is a hot pool, almost like a hot tub. So in the summer, you're like, had your whole spa experience. Now you're relaxing on a lounge chair in the sun. It was like 85, if not hotter degrees, sweating, and you kind of want to like dip into a cool pool, and the pool in the middle is hot as heck. So that was like kind of weird for us. It's also a very small area. So there's like 3 tables and chairs that you could sit at and order food or drinks. And then there's some lounge chairs, but like we had to wait a minute till someone got up and then snag some lounge chairs. You could tell there were a lot of people like trying to grab a chair. So also that was like a little surprising to us that the outdoor area was so small. But we found lounge chairs. We read. We had a lot of reading materials from when we checked in. They gave you like the history of the hotel and a map of the ground. So we were kind of like looking at that. I had my book. We ordered lunch poolside at the spa. You can also order drinks. There were a lot of people ordering like palomas, and there was some sort of a seasonal mule drink that people were ordering. They do have a 2-drink minimum. So also know that. I don't think they want people getting sloshed at the spa. Also, that like with massages and stuff, it lets out a lot of toxins. So some people like end up getting inebriated quicker after a massage. So maybe that's why they have a 2-drink rule, but we weren't in the mood for drinks yet. So we had our spa water, and then I ordered off the menu an avocado toast, and my husband got a Santa Fe chicken wrap. They were great. The avocado toast was like phenomenal. It was massive. There were 4 big pieces of avocado toast with obviously avocado spread, drizzled balsamic, like roasted tomatoes and pickled onions. And it was fabulous. I could only eat half of it, and then my husband had the other half, and we both loved it. So the food was great. But after about an hour of chilling in the hot sun and not being able to like get in an easily accessible cold pool, we could have gotten in a cold pool, but you have to go back inside. We decided we were going to go check out the resort pool at the hotel to chill at like the main resort pool until our room was ready. So we had looked at our map and we saw that the resort pool was down by the golf course. So we decided, we've got all the time in the world today. We're just relaxing. We've got our backpacks on, we've got our swimsuits on. Let's just walk to the resort pool. That was a bit of a mistake. So the resort pool, just as an FYI, is very far away from the main hotel. So we start walking. We're kind of like in a weird area. We're like, kind of in and out in parking garages. We're on a main road not a main road, but like a resort main road that golf carts and shuttles are going on. Note, you're supposed to take the shuttle. We kind of end up at the golf course and we're still not quite there. And there's like not that much signage. And we are like, where are we going? So probably like a 12-minute walk later, we finally find it and it's like hilly. So we're kind of hot and like, we're like, where are we? Here's what we figured out. The Omni Grove also has an Omni Grove country club that the locals in Asheville use and are members of. So the hotel resort pool, the only pool, well, there's an indoor pool, but the only outdoor resort pool at the hotel is also shared with the country club, as is the golf course. So the golf course and the pool are part of the Omni Grove Country Club. So no big deal. We get in. They're like, are you country club members or are you hotel guests? We're hotel guests. What's your room number? Blah, blah, blah. We find 2 chairs. We enjoy it. It's kind of just like a big rectangular pool. It's nice. It's huge. So there's a lot of space to spread out, but it's just like a standard large rectangular pool. And it did feel like it was kind of the country club zone. Like you could tell a lot of people knew each other. A lot of families knew each other.
I'm Dan Heath. On the What It's Like to Be podcast, I ask folks about their jobs, like what keeps a TV meteorologist up at night.
When I'm at work and there's a tornado coming into town, my husband and my kids have to get into the tornado shelter without me.
What keeps a welder driven?
I never am satisfied. I always know I can do better.
And what keeps a hairstylist on her toes?
I know she likes that Holly Berry haircut, but she doesn't look like Holly Berry.
Find out on What It's Like to Be, wherever you get your podcasts.
We kind of felt like we were in the country club people's space. So that was just like a little different. It didn't matter, but it was kind of, you didn't feel like you were like at a typical hotel resort pool where everybody there is a resort guest and you're being catered to like a hotel resort guest, if that makes sense. There was still poolside service. They were great. There was a little kind of like screened in porch looking bar and grill where you could get like, chicken tenders, a burger, that sort of stuff. So it was great. It was fine. But we took the shuttle later in the trip down to the pool, which it's like a 7-minute shuttle ride because it is a long walk. And this part made me realize that I probably wouldn't bring my kids here. We saw a lot of cute families, and it is a very cool historic hotel to show your family. So if you're up for it and you want that historic hotel feel and you want to see your cute little family in this cute historic hotel, go for it. But for me, I'm like, if I've got to load my kids onto a shuttle every time we want to go to the pool, and then if someone's like wants to go back to the room, they can't just like easily pop back to the room. That felt a little different to me. So that's just an FYI about the resort pool. But we had a great afternoon. We read our books. My husband was allowed to read his iPad book by this pool. And we just enjoyed our afternoon, had a couple drinks, and then headed up to check into our room. So I already mentioned this hotel is super historic. It was built in 1913, and there's so much history everywhere in the hotel. There's tons of plaques to read about the hotel. There are portraits of all the famous people that have stayed there. Tons of presidents have stayed there, famous actors and actresses. So that's kind of fun to see all the people that have stayed there in the past lining the hallways. We were on the 7th floor of the Vanderbilt wing. Our room was great. King room, overlooked the Blue Ridge Mountains. I love a mountain view. It is just so relaxing. So we loved that. Like I said before, the room was comfortable, clean, spacious, very spacious. The room is quite large and the bathroom is quite large, 2 sinks, a lot of room to spread out. So that was nice. So we got showered and then changed into some nicer outfits because on this night we were eating dinner on the Sunset Terrace, which is the terrace, the outdoor terrace, straight out back from the hotel that overlooks the hotel grounds and the Blue Ridge Mountains. And this is a can't miss if you're going to the Omni Grove Park Inn. We made reservations. Oh, I should also mention for the spa, back up real quick. We made reservations like well over 6 months in advance. It's very popular. It books up quickly. So if you're thinking about going, I would go ahead and make a reservation as far out as possible for the spa. That's how we were able to get like our preferred morning time and have services at the same time and that sort of thing. But similar to that, I also made a reservation well in advance for the Sunset Terrace because I wanted to be sitting on it at sunset. Sunset during this time of year, I had Googled it, was at 8:45 p.m., which is pretty late. So we made our dinner reservation for 8 p.m. This is a lovely, fancy hotel restaurant. There's also a level down from the restaurant that's just for drinks. So if you didn't want to make a reservation at this restaurant, because it is kind of like a pricey meal, you could also get drinks just on the terrace level below it. But so we sat down at our Sunset Terrace dinner. We got shrimp cocktail, which was delicious. They were like jumbo, delicious shrimp cocktail. My husband got sea bass, and it was a massive fillet of sea bass. I got crab cakes. It was on the appetizers, but I wanted it for my entree. And then we got some whipped potatoes and asparagus to share. So no complaints about the food. It was delicious all around. Great place to order seafood, steaks, that sort of thing. And we got to watch the sunset. It was a little cloudy and hazy on this day, and the sunset's kind of away from your mountain view, but it still was a beautiful place to spend an evening. And I highly recommend the Sunset Terrace for dinner. And then we had seen in the hotel materials that there was a dueling piano bar in the basement. And we were like, check, love a dueling piano bar. So that was actually in our wing, the Vanderbilt wing. You went all the way down to the level E, I think E for Elaine's, because it's called Elaine's Dueling Piano Bar. And this is tucked away. There are all of these leather chairs set up in rows. There's a bar and there are servers that come around. Our server was phenomenal. There are two white pianos facing each other. I think Elaine's is open Thursdays through Sundays, maybe from like 5 p.m. to 1 a.m., but double check that when you're there. It was so fun. We were like, this feels like how people were spending their evenings in the 1913s as well. Like it was like good old fashioned fun. The server was phenomenal. She was on top of it. She was constantly like checking on people. I don't believe there was any food. I think it's only drinks from what I remember seeing. I loved the espresso martinis there. I was on an espresso martini kick this trip, and my husband would get ranch waters. They had ranch waters at the menu at this hotel, which is his favorite. It's tequila, typically Topo Chico, or like a sparkling soda water and a lime. And the dueling piano guys were amazing. They would take tips and recommendations. And they had this really fun thing where they do this phrase of the night on the huge mirror behind their pianos. And someone can pay like $25 to say like, I love Samantha. And then someone else can trumpet and pay like $30 to say, Roll Tide Roll. And then someone would trumpet with $45 and say like, Tennessee Vols for life. And so anyways, people were just going back and forth and like paying to get the phrase of the night changed. So that was pretty cute and fun. And they'd like erase it and write a new one. And then of course, all the dueling piano songs, people are dancing and singing. And I mean, we would go back just to go to Elaine's dueling piano bar because we loved it that much. We didn't stay to close it down till 1 a.m., but we probably were there until like 11:30 or midnight. So then we got a great sleep, and then we woke up for our Saturday. And what we wanted to do on Saturday was get out in the Blue Ridge Mountains and go hiking. And we couldn't really wrap our brains around where we should go. We probably should have done a little bit more research, but we asked the concierge, and he was kind of explaining you can either go north of Asheville and there's a lot of hiking, or you can go south of Asheville and there's a lot of hiking. But north of Asheville has the highest point in the United States east of the Mississippi River. It's called Mount Mitchell. And my husband thought that was pretty cool. So we decided we were going to go north. So we got a map from the concierge and we decided to start at an area called Craggy Gardens. So you can kind of just map yourself to this parking lot. It's seriously just off the main mountain road. We probably drove 30 or 40 minutes. And it's almost like you got to be watching for it or you could miss it because it says there's a visitor center and a parking area, but it's kind of like a parking area just off the road and a little visitor center. I don't want to say shack, but it's not like a big built out situation. So we parked at Craggy Gardens and there's a little hike there that is shaded. And it was a really nice way to start our day because it was a moderate to strenuous hike. I would say there was a lot of rocks, a lot of kind of like uphill, bigger rocks that you're hiking. You don't need to use your hands. It's not like bouldering, but you're definitely like getting some elevation in. You're, getting out of breath. You're hiking up the rocks. And then it ends in a big clearing, which is really pretty. And you can see the mountains in the background. In June, there are rhododendrons everywhere. That's kind of like what this hike is famous for. We were there in July, so we had just missed them, but there were still lots of beautiful wildflowers and a really cool clearing to kind of like sit on a bench, take in the views. It was a great first hike. So then it was about a mile. So we did that, took a little break at the top, relaxed, and then did the mile back down to the parking area. We got in our car and just drove maybe 5 more minutes up the road to an area called the Craggy Pinnacle Hike. This was our favorite hike of the day. I would highly recommend making sure you put this on your list. Craggy Pinnacle Hike had a lot of parking, and this was similar in that it was slightly strenuous and about a mile, but it ends in a beautiful pinnacle summit, very photo worthy. On all the materials, it says it's a moderate hike, but we've decided that moderate means like moderate/strenuous because we saw like a sweet older man who was extremely out of breath. So it's not like easy, but like my kids could probably do it because it's only a mile, but you're going uphill quite a bit. But this had beautiful views. I'll put some pictures of it on my Instagram reel when I get to it. But this was, you could see for miles. It's where you can get the beautiful pictures with mountains in the background. So highly recommend Craggy Pinnacle Hike. And then we continued on our way to Mount Mitchell Summit. Now, this area is really cool because it has a restaurant, which is kind of new, tons of parking. We were going to get a bite to eat at the restaurant to check it out and take a video for you guys. And we should have when we passed it because we were like, oh, we'll just come back after our hike because we're not like starving yet or after we see the top of Mount Mitchell. And on our way back down, there was like park rangers there with their lights going, and we were like, what's going on? And they were like, it's closed, the parking lot's completely full, like we're not opening it back up for a little bit till the parking clears out. And we were like, oh shoot. And there really isn't anywhere else to go in that area, so we just headed back after that. But so if you get a parking spot at the restaurant, check it out because people say it's like nice and new. There's sandwiches and soups, and you can even like take your order to go and sit out back on Adirondack chairs and overlook the mountain view. So we were bummed that we didn't get to see that, but anyhow, we continued past the restaurant initially, went all the way up to the parking area. It's like quite an operation. There's a massive parking area. There is a gift shop. There are restrooms. There were the Jehovah's Witnesses there, like trying to chat with people and give out brochures. There was a snack shack with like Gatorades and chips and snacks. Oh, there was a little museum that you could go get all this history of like the Blue Ridge Mountains and Mount Mitchell, this, summit, the highest summit east of the Mississippi. So I was like surprised. We'd driven forever up this, like halfway up this mountain, and there's like so much going on up there. The nice thing about Mount Mitchell is that you don't have to like do a 4-mile hike to summit it. They've created this entire area, and then you just walk this paved path to get to the top. Now, it was very steep. Again, we saw some people sitting, catching their breath, like laughing, like, is this over yet? It's definitely not a mile, maybe half a mile. Very steep, half a mile, but paved. So you just take your time, one foot after the other. The coolest part for us was that the trees changed from the regular trees that are all over North Carolina to Fraser firs, and it starts smelling almost like Christmas. There's one hike off to the edge. It's like a garden trail hike that people say the reason people do it is because it smells so wonderful in there because it's all Fraser firs. So we got all the way up to the top, and they had a beautiful built out lookout point that you could go up to and get pictures at. They have all these maps of how far you can see. You can see like peaks and points and areas of other mountain ranges off into the distance. And all of those are highlighted on little maps at the top. There's even a grave for the person. There was one explorer that was it was actually a professor who was trying to prove that Mount Mitchell was the highest point in the Blue Ridge Mountain Range. And he unfortunately died trying to figure this all out. And so his grave is up there, and there's a big plaque that says, "Here lies," I think it was like Elisha. Um, and so there's all this information about him up there. So it was just like a really cool spot. We were saying that we'd love to bring our kids there because it's like educational and kind of cool to be at the tallest point of east of the Mississippi. There were people like standing on benches at the top to be like as high as you could be east of the Mississippi, taking pictures. So that was really cool. And I think that that is a great place to visit as well. And that's when we were trying to go to the restaurant and it didn't work out. So we just headed back to the Omni Grove Park Inn. It was a sweet and simple day of hiking. We have done much more strenuous days of hiking. We probably could have figured out a couple more to go on. There are tons. You can use your All Trails app or ask the park rangers at any of these places for other recommendations. But we figured the three we did, the Craggy Gardens, which was like sweet and wildflowers, the Craggy Pinnacle Summit, which felt like a nice summit hike, and then getting to the top of this Mount Mitchell was enough for us. We wanted to go back and enjoy our beautiful hotel. So we headed back to the Omni Grove Park Inn. And since we couldn't get lunch at the Mount Mitchell restaurant, we visited Edison's, which is another wonderful restaurant that's open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's nice because Edison's at the Omni Grove Park Inn is open all day. Some of the other ones like close after breakfast hour and get prepared for lunch, or close after their lunch service to get prepared for dinner. Edison's is open all day long. So we got there like 2:30, a super random time, but there were quite a few people in there. Delicious all-American food. We got a Caesar salad with salmon on top, and we got a burger and fries and just kind of shared it all. And it was delicious. We sat outdoor on the terrace there. And again, you're overlooking the grounds and the mountains, and it's just absolutely breathtaking. We also saw, it was so fun. We saw a guy standing out in the distance. There's a lot of weddings going on at the Omni Grove Park Inn. And we saw a guy in a tux standing like way off in the distance. And then Joe goes, "Oh, look at those girls with the bride carrying her train." And I go, "Oh my gosh, I think it's a first look, like before the wedding." And so I like run over to the edge. They can't see me at all. They're like really far away. They're so small, but I zoom in with my camera phone and start recording. And it was a first look. And I like seriously watched this guy turn around and hug his bride and like wipe his eyes. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing." My husband's like, "Please sit down and eat your Caesar salad and stop filming this couple we don't know's first look." But it was pretty fun to watch. Okay, next is the only mix-up of the trip. So when you're looking at the Omni Grove Park Inn online, or when you're looking at all their materials, they have a sports complex that has tennis courts, pickleball courts, a workout facility, ping pong tables, skee ball. There's kind of like a lot down there, especially if you had a family to go like check out. So the day before we had dinner at the Sunset Terrace, I was like, let's try to make a pickleball reservation. We love playing pickleball. We hadn't played in a while, and there are courts, so let's make a reservation. So the concierge at Omni Grove Park Inn helps us call the sports complex. We talk to a guy there. We ask if we can have a pickleball reservation for tomorrow, Saturday. He says, "Sure." How's 4 p.m.? We say, "Great." So we've kind of like planned our whole hiking day and making sure we get food around this pickleball reservation. So we get down to the sports complex, which isn't that far. It's kind of just down a set of stairs out of the main hotel. And we're like, "Hi, we have 4 p.m. pickleball reservations." And they're like, "We don't have them on here. We have all those courts are reserved for tennis. The pickleball courts are like on the tennis courts. You know how they do that sometimes?" And we were like, "Oh, that's weird." We like called down last night and they had told us they put our name down. It's $20. And they were like, "You're not on the list." They felt really bad. They were kind of like, "We don't know what happened." And I was kind of like, okay, like, I'm like, whatever. I don't really care. I don't have to play pickleball. It was just kind of like a fun thing to do. But that was just kind of like weird. I was like, wonder who we talked to and who like wrote our name down. It was just weird. So we went and took a look at the pickleball facility, or the there's 3 indoor tennis courts and they can also be changed into pickleball courts. And there was a couple playing ping pong in there. I was like, do you just want to play ping pong? And Joe was like, maybe not. But that is available. Just maybe like double confirm or triple confirm that your reservation's actually in place. So we were like, whatever, we'll go back to that resort pool. And this time we walked back up to the main, it's like the main exit of the hotel where the valets are, like the main entrance. That's where the shuttle's kind of waiting all the time. We never waited more than 5 seconds for the shuttle. So, and they'd go, are you going to the pool? Because they could see you're in like, swimsuits. And we were like, yep. And the shuttle comes, takes you down. We easily found pool chairs again. It was lovely. We read in the sunshine. We dipped in the pool. We had an afternoon pool drink. No complaints. We would have been happy playing pickleball or sitting by a pool. We were on this trip to relax, honestly, and that's exactly what we did. So then we decided to go back into downtown Asheville for dinner that night. We had gotten a recommendation from one of my husband's friends to try green tea sushi in Asheville. He was like, I've eaten sushi all over the world, and this is the best sushi. The place is nothing to look at. It's like in a kind of like a strip mall. But you know how some sushi places are so tucked away, but the fish is like incredible. So we thought it was awesome. We loved it. The bottles of wine were like $22. My husband was like, well, this is a whole lot better than the Omni Grove Park Inn. The sushi rolls were like so affordable. So it was kind of fun to get off property and eat a delicious meal that didn't cost an arm and a leg. We also heard that wasabi sushi is a great spot in Asheville. So I would look up green tea or wasabi. Again, they're not necessarily anything to look at, but they have extremely fresh fish, fresh rolls. We got a lot of nigiri and it was all delicious. No complaints. Loved it. And then we went back to our beautiful Omni Grove Park Inn and hit that elevator button straight down to E to go back to Elaine's for our last night at the Dueling Piano Bar. We had the best time there again. Can't recommend it enough. Absolutely loved ending our evenings at Elaine's. So then the next morning, we just slept in on Sunday and took in the beauty of the hotel one last time. Every time you walk around a corner and catch a glimpse of the hotel, like in the morning sun or the afternoon sunset, it is so overwhelmingly beautiful. I would like take a picture and a video every single time. I loved this hotel so much. The one thing we didn't do on this trip, which everybody was like, did you go to the Biltmore? Did you go to the Biltmore? And I'm like, no, we didn't go to the Biltmore. I'm sorry. My husband and I both have been to the Biltmore as teens. We generally remember it. I'm sure it's incredible. We will go again at some point in our lives. It was over $100 a person. This was my husband's 40th birthday trip. I wanted to make it all about him and what he wants to do. He didn't really want to go on a tour of a famous mansion, which is fine. And I'm like, you know what? If we bring our kids back to Asheville, we passed a lot of whitewater rafting signs. We could do hiking, whitewater rafting, and the Biltmore with them because I feel like that's something you need to see at least once in your life. But on this trip, we didn't do it. So no new updates about the Biltmore, but obviously that is a very popular spot if you are visiting Asheville. But I think that pretty much wraps up our trip. So I end every episode with, if someone out there is considering visiting Asheville, North Carolina, what is it about the Omni Grove Park Inn that would make you say, just book it? Oh my gosh, just book it. Number one, if you can get it on credit card points, amazing. Book it that way. Otherwise, this hotel feels so celebratory. That's what I kept saying. It feels special. Like I said, I might not bring my kids to this hotel because the resort pool is super far away, but for a couple's trip or something that needs to be celebrated, we saw a few bachelorette parties. This hotel feels like a special spot. From pulling up to the amazing architecture with the boulders and the cool roof, to walking into the lobby with the super high ceilings and the massive, gorgeous fireplace that's going year round. This hotel is phenomenal. Book a mountain view room if you can so that every morning and every evening you can see a view of those Blue Ridge Mountains. Definitely eat a meal on the Sunset Terrace. If you love a spa, book a spa appointment early in the day so that you can enjoy those pools and those hot tubs and that outdoor area overlooking the mountains for a good bit of your day. Get out into the Blue Ridge Mountains and go hiking. Go to the summit of Mount Mitchell, the highest point east of the Mississippi River. And then definitely end your evenings at Elaine's Dueling Piano Bar for a super fun, classic good time. We absolutely love this trip and highly recommend it for a special occasion. Okay, that is it for episode 20. I'm so excited that I hit my milestone of making 20 episodes, and I am not stopping anytime soon. Like I told you guys, I have so many upcoming awesome interviews booked with people. Email me if you have a great trip you want to share about. We make it super fun and super conversational. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I will see you next week on the next episode of Trip Tales. That wraps up another episode of Trip Tales. If you have a trip you'd like to share about on the podcast, email me at triptalespodcast@gmail.com and I'll add you to the schedule. Also, be sure to follow the show so that you don't miss any upcoming vacation destinations. And if you have an extra minute in your day, please leave a review for the podcast. It helps more than you could imagine. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next episode of Trip Tales.